What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Shade Tree Garage, and again we are at my work right now because we're doing some kind of finagly things that we're measuring for bearings. So I want to make sure we're doing it pretty clean here, and as well as anything I can get with good lighting to show you guys exactly what we're doing. This is going to be kind of a basic rundown. I may do a more in-depth video over time, but not yet. I just want to kind of show you roughly how we do it for rods, and then I can show you how to do the mains. It pretty much applies the same way. My mains look great, so I'm not going to really worry about remeasuring my mains. Going to do those with just standard ACL bearings, and then on the rods I'll show you how we're going to find out. So really quick, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and why this is so important to do. So you have your connecting rods, or a main bearing, however you want to look at this. You have your connecting rod big end, which is this guy, no bearing in it right now. And then you have your crankshaft. Your crankshaft, say that it rides, I don't know, let's just pick one. May take a second to focus. It rides on there. Obviously this size is way bigger than that right now without a bearing. Is we want to measure our big end on our rod and then measure our crankshaft, which is smaller. You find the difference there, and then you want to measure for your bearing, and then you got to have an oil clearance in there. If you just build it tight and say you have 0.1190 inches left, and you put a bearing in there that's 0.1190 thick, then you don't have any spots for oil, so it's just going to be like a metal on metal engine. Not good. Or in this case, I do like to use a sheet that I made, and again, you can use this sheet for a lot of engine builds, any engine build, and I'll try to remember, if I can, I'll put it in the Google Drive deal. It's just a Google Drive link. It's nothing, it's just a sheet. Kind of maybe hard for you to see, but it's got our clearances on there. You may be saying, like, how do I measure the big end on my rod? What tools am I going to need? So in order to do this properly, you are going to need a couple good tools. You're going to need a dial bore gauge, which is literally just, it works pretty simple. You screw this in, goes in, and she moves. Micrometers, these are not digital micrometers. These ones actually have a readout. We start at 1 inch up to 2 inch, so we know that 1.1, 2, 3, 4. Then here's your second digit, so you go in between there. So say like right now, let me just get a measurement. Let's just go down here. And this, again, you could look this up on Google Images and it'll show you how to do this. But this would be, since we're at 1 inch, 1.8 inches, because we're not quite at the 9, and then you got to go in between there. Sorry, that's our compressor. In between there, each one of those is 25. So 1.8, so it'd be 1.875 plus whatever this is. So say that it's right there, the 24 is even with the 0 over here. So it'd be 75 plus 24, which would be 1.899, and then our other digit is up here on the left side. Whichever one lines up there. I know this is very rough, so it looks like the 4 is lining up, or the 3. So it'd be 1.8993. So that's literally how you would measure that. So, and then the way that this works is this cool tool will come with a bunch of attachments. Let me see if I can show it over here. And this is a cheaper one. This is not a super expensive one. I got this one off of eBay. Not bad at all. It's Anytime Tools. Dial bore gauge. And you just want it to be accurate down to 0.0005. I have a piece of foam in here to hold everything. Kind of tells you a brief introduction on how to use the tool. Cool little case, and then certificate of accuracy. So these are all how you would adjust your dial bore gauge to your base height. So in our case, this can get very confusing, so just try to follow along with me. In our case, we can put this little bit will squeeze in. See that? So we squeeze it in there, and then we've got it in, and sometimes you just got to put your hands on this to be able to feel what I'm feeling. So it's in there, and it's just expanding in there, and that's the expanding and contracting kind of thing. So now what you want to do is you want to rock this back and forth to get your smallest number where it's the tightest, and then what I like to do is set it to 0, because you can spin this dial right here. So like say that that's where the biggest part is, right there. Now I know I can spin it to here. Sorry. right about there. So now you literally would take your micrometer and you would squeeze this with the micrometer until you're back at your 0 mark, and then whatever the micrometer is reading whenever it does that is literally how big your journal is. And then I jot them all down, and that's how you know, like, connecting rod journal size. And then you go and you squeeze your crank with the micrometer, which is not too bad. You literally would just come at it like this, try to get it, mess with it nice and even, and then get your readout right there. And after you learn to read these, this will be really easy. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Sorry, that's not wanting to focus. And then you compare the two. And then I, in my case, came over here and I have, so I write down my rod journal size. I know they're all 2.008, and in your case, like if it's a brand new rod or a manly rod or something, they may give you these sizes with it, which in our case it was 2.0080. And then my crankshaft size is right here, and this is all in inches. And then our clearance in inches should be 0.007 to 0.0015. That's our oil clearance, that's important. And then I would take these two, and I would subtract it, and that's right there. And then I like to come over to ACL, which is really cool. Come over to ACL's website, find your part number for which bearing you're getting. In my case, it's this top one. They give you your max wall readout, which is just a standard RB26 bearing. Take that max wall, times it by 2. Remember, theirs is in millimeters, so it'd be, I had it written down. No, I didn't. But that would be what, 3.006, or turn that into inches, like just on a calculator or whatever. You can literally just Google millimeters to inches. That would give us a 0.1183 is what our total bearing thicknesses are going to be, and that's as far as the actual bearing. So 0.1183 minus, so we had this much room left. Remember, whenever we subtract our rod journal, whenever we subtract our rod journal from our crankshaft, we had 0.1194. Then we take the 0.1194 and we subtract 0.1183 because we know that's how thick our bearings are by part number. That leaves us with 0.011, 0.0011, and then I do that on all of them. There are what we have left, and then we go look at our oil clearance, 0.007 to 0.0015. And as you can see, we're all within spec. I would like number 4 to be a little tighter, but then you can get a bearing just to adjust for that. And yeah, I know it sounds, I may make it sound easier than it really is, but it's only because it is extremely hard to describe on camera. I've tried this twice now, and it's just kind of hard. Your main takeaways are, you're trying to measure this to get, and then that, and then compare the two, figure out how thick your bearing is on whatever parts website or whatever bearing you get, find what oil clearance you want, see if you're within spec. That's all it is. And I'll put that sheet, and I'll try to do a better recording of it if I can, if possible. But other than that, that's literally how you do it. And now if you were doing main bearings, take your dial indicator, measure the inside of the main journal on your engine, and then you measure your crankshaft, and then you figure out the bearing thickness, and same thing, the oil clearances are all the same, or are the same in this case. And then what is important though is that you have this surface very clean, and then you got to torque them down. Make sure they match on the sides if they're married rod caps, which they all should be, but in our case they're directional. They're married to each other like that, in that specific way. And then you measure your you torque it down, and then you can measure that, and then you make sure everything's clean, everything's nice. But it's not that bad after you start doing it. And you know, if something's way off, there's a good chance that you may have done it, and you know to go back and maybe either do it again, or just to restart overall, or get somebody's second opinion. I did it to all my rods, I wrote it down, and then now I know exactly what bearings I need. In this case, they're all still standard bearings, but that 0.0014 is kind of close up to tolerance. You don't want to build a worn out engine, you want to build a fresh engine. But in this case, this thing does get oil changes very often, as well at the same time as it doesn't last. It's not in the car for a very long period of time before I do work on it again anyway. I keep really good close eye on my oil and all that stuff, but a race engine is still going to be, it's under much higher, you know, like loads than a normal engine. So you just got to be careful with it. Now on the sheet that I have here, I do have all kinds of stuff like piston. There's all kinds of stuff that you can figure out how to do online. Just ignore this stuff kind of down here. If there's anything inputted on the charts, just ignore that. You can literally make it up for you. It's not going to be specifically for an engine, although I could make it be. Other than that, that's all I can say. I hope that I kind of summed it up for you. If you have any questions, throw them down in the comments and I'll try to help you out, or message me on Instagram. That way I can see your guys' messages and I try to reply to everybody. Even in the YouTube comments, I do my very best to reply to everybody that I possibly can. But thanks for the 800 subscribers, and I will see you guys later.